Tom. I was really impressed by the film, just how it was able to blend so many relevant issues for adults in with, the fun that, the kids would enjoy. How important is it to make sure the films kind of have something for everybody? I mean, these films are so popular because, it's a whole family experience.
Yeah, well, that's the ultimate goal, Tyler. I think, I just remember as a kid, I remember my parents would take my brother and sister and I to the Pink Panther movies with Peter Sellers. And my parents would laugh at some of the adult humor, and then my brother and sister and I would laugh at the slapstick humor. And it made a big impression on me because it was a movie like we could all kind of go together and enjoy in a way. And it feels like, we didn't want to have just parents take their kids to a movie and be bored. We wanted to entertain the whole family, in a way. And it felt like with the sequel, we had an opportunity, to not only have a strong female voice with baby Tina, but also have the perspective of the parents as well, whether it's the father-daughter story with Tim and his daughter or the grandparent story. So it felt like there was much more access points for, either kids or parents or grandparents to kind of not only laugh at ourselves, but maybe hopefully move the audience as well.
Yeah, and something I thought was really interesting was the distance that kind of grew between Ted and Tim over time. The film takes place, what, like 40 years later after the original. So, Ted's this super successful businessman, and he's kind of forgotten about, the family, and that work-life balance is something I think we all can struggle with, is a really real issue everywhere. Can you just talk about that theme, and did it come from, something you've struggled with in the past as well?
Yeah, in a way, I always said the first movie was a love letter to my brother. And early on, when I was working with Mike McCullers on what we could do with this story, you always want to bring something personal to the story you're telling. And in my case, my brother and I, always had a tumultuous childhood. And as we grew older, he became a stay-at-home father, and I got the opportunity to, make films because something we both did is in our childhood. And I was always kind of envious of him because I never had a family myself. I was always so work driven, and he has wonderful kids. And I was always a little bit envious of that because, I thought that was a real measure of success, your family. And then he was slightly envious of me because I got to go off and make films, which was a shared dream with both of us. So there's a little bit of that in the movie. But I think with my brother and I's story, or with all our family stories, is that sometimes you can drift apart and you get so involved with your job or whatever that you can forget to pick up the phone and connect with your family. And we just thought, oh, it'd be a great opportunity because life is short and family is very important to that, that an audience would think about family members maybe they disconnected with and pick up the phone after they saw the movie and say hello, or I'm sorry, or I love you, which feels like it's very common with all of us. And we just felt like, it's nice to have a theme disguised in comedy that actually moves people. And they say that laughter is the doorway to the heart, And not only do we have the brother story, we really wanted to touch on the father-daughter story, and just thought it would be interesting as a parent to be able to see your child in school and connect with them on a level, not as a parent, but maybe their weird friend in school, as in Tim's case in this movie. So we just thought, if we can make people laugh, but also at the end of the day, move people as well, then we've done our job.
Yeah, speaking to the father-daughter relationship, I really loved Tim kind of seeing he's seeing Tabitha kind of growing up too fast, and she's trying to, like, she idolizes Ted, and she's kind of like getting away from enjoying her childhood. She, wants to be more business focused. And there's a real, I love how that came around, that story came around. And then, like you mentioned, at school, he gets to see this whole different side of her that she's maybe not as upfront about. Can you speak to that theme, and just seeing a child just kind of want to go into adulthood rather than enjoy the now?
Yeah, I think, that, childhood is such a precious time in all of our lives, and it's very short, and you can never really go back. I just thought it was interesting character-wise if Tim kind of held on to his childhood so much so that, his growth, he needs to become a better parent. And we just thought it was funny that his daughter is more like Boss Baby than like him, who's much more practical and kind of, thinks like imagination maybe isn't important as academic schoolwork. But I remember when I was a kid, when I reached junior high, I stopped kissing my father goodnight, thinking like I was too old to do that. And then years later, a couple of years later, my mom said, well, your dad really misses the fact that you don't kiss him goodnight anymore. I had no idea. I thought I was too old for it. So every night after that, while he was still alive, I'd kiss him goodnight on the forehead. And I just saw how important that was to him. And there's a bit of that in the movie, you know what I mean? And we just wanted to celebrate childhood in a way where, with academics, pressure, schools, or kids wanting to grow up too fast, that the movies are really a celebration of childhood, and you're always going to be an adult later on in life, and to enjoy those precious moments where, you get to use your imagination and be free in a way. Plus, it was just fun to think about, there's always a kind of a wish fulfillment, I think, of everyone going, if I could go back to my childhood and have a do-over, with the information I know now, what would I do with that? And so there's an element of that, of Tim being able to become his daughter's weird friend in school to get more insight into, being a better parent in a way.
I love there's this fight scene semi early on between Ted and Tim where they're drinking from that bottle that makes them de-age, and I thought that was just so much fun. How was it like coming up with that action-packed scene? Because so much of this is comedy, but like that, I feel like the action's kind of underrated. Like there's some really great fight scenes in here.
Oh, thanks. We wanted to have some fun action moments, and early on, and Michael McCullers wrote some fun dialogue. We just thought it'd be funny if they're turning back into kids as but they're adults, but their arguments are so petty, and all their laundry list comes out of their complaints against each other as they're turning into kids again. And it was in the early concept of the movie that they become very petty with their arguments, but also revert back to kids in a way. And we just thought it was a funny premise that, two grown men have to relive their childhood to be better adults, in a way. And the animators had a lot of fun. I think that's where animation can shine, with the broad comedy of them actually reverting back into their adolescent selves and down into the serendipity of just enough formula to turn them back into the characters from the first movie, So I know the animators had a great time with that sequence as well.
I saw one of your earliest jobs was on Ren and Stimpy, and I saw you directed I Was a Teenage Stimpy, and that kind of has similar themes, although he's kind of fighting against growing up. I thought that was just so fun that, this kind of theme of childhood into adulthood has kind of followed your career.
Yeah, it was fun. And that episode in particular was kind of fun because, Ren was so behind Stimpy growing up so fast, and that's always fun to play with a little bit, and and to laugh at going through puberty or going into adulthood. And so I think if we can laugh at ourselves, I think there's a lot of that kind of into Boss Baby too. Similar themes of Tim needing to grow up as a father, but laughing at ourselves is great medicine, I would say, to healing all our problems with family. And so there's probably more of that in Boss Baby too, and whether you're a parent looking at it at your kids, or whether your kids are relating to like the baby boss or baby Tina and that sort of thing.
I love that this got a Peacock release, because with the pandemic, so many households are finding it difficult to get to the theater, especially with kids and bringing everybody out there. Were you glad that you could reach kind of everybody that really wanted to see the film rather than kind of locking it away?
Yeah, I mean, you design these movies, for the big screen, and whether it's in 3D or, the sound work, the design work, and all that. But we live in a time where, you just want the broadest audience to see your movie, and a lot of kids aren't vaccinated and parents don't feel comfortable taking them to the theater. So they have the option of watching it on TV, which is fine, especially with younger kids. And you just want to entertain as many people as you can, and as a filmmaker, you know, um, it's a weird time because you want to sit in the theater with that's packed and listen to the laughter, especially with kids and that sort of thing. And but some people just don't feel great about going to the theaters right now. So they have the Peacock option, which I thought was fantastic, actually. Plus, you can use your own bathroom when you watch the movie, which is a
Very
plus
good.
for many people.
Definitely, definitely. You helmed the fantastic Madagascar movies, and so many fans still want to see another one. Are you still hopeful that we'll see those characters again?
Yeah, I they are near and dear to my heart in a way. And working with Chris Rock and Ben Stiller and Jada Pinkett and everybody as part of those movies was always fun. It was nice to be able to have the opportunity to tell the entire story for the Madagascar characters. But you really have to think like, is there a story worth telling? We're not just make a sequel for a sequel sake, but actually find a story like that is important to tell in a way. Um, and so we'll see. You spend 3 to 5 years working with the same characters to make an animated movie, and they become like your children in a way, the characters, and they're very near and dear to your heart. So you're always hoping for an opportunity to tell more stories with these characters.
And then my last question, during a Q&A, Alec and Amy kind of said a third boss baby's in early development. I'm sure there's not much to say at this stage. Like you said, it takes so many years. But how excited are you that this franchise still has so much to give?
Um, it's nice to know that audiences relate to the characters in a way. So I always think of it as that being the first success, not just a sequel in a way. And um, but like I said, I love working with the actors, and I particularly love working with the artists. And I think everyone on the crew had a connection with this movie that was special, whether it was the father-daughter story or the brother story. And I think that's what propelled us to make this movie from home. Because during the pandemic, 75% of the movie was made from home. But the crew was so, emotionally connected to the movie that everyone poured their heart and soul into it, to make it worthy of the big screen, but from home. And so those are the things I find special about making the movie is working with the people again, because that old saying, it's the journey, not the destination, is so true in filmmaking, and particularly animation, where you're together for so long. And when the movie's done, it's your baby that's out there to the world. But if you can pick up and work with the same actors, the same artists again, that's the reward.